is.
What is it?
It's Tomb of the Spider Queen.
You cheated. Gale Force is going to be the one taking it to Tomb of the Spider Queen. What this means is that first pick slot will go over to the members of Even in Death. Why is that relevant? Mainly because Garrosh could be a thing that they use to, you know, perform very well. Also, Gale Force was comfortable busting out the Tronda on Tomb last time in Game 3 against Even in Death, but that was when Even in Death was able to get the win.
I will say that the Garrosh of Even in Death did not look as dominant as Roll20. There were, I mean, Justing every single queue that went out was able to pull someone in most of the time. And whether it's Gale Force has played versus it more, and so they're a little bit more understanding of that triangle and where they need to be to make sure they don't get pulled. We did see some people moving into the inside so that they wouldn't get pulled, but there are far fewer pulls happening for Battery in that game.
There were far fewer, and also they had a double support to be able to deal with, and more importantly, I just want to shout out to K1 Pro's Uther is one of the most ridiculous Uthers I've ever seen. I'm actually a little sad I've never seen him play support like continuously now.
Are you truly surprised by that? It's K1 Pro.
I mean, I know the guy's really, really good, and he is probably, for me, the player that I give the most respect to out of all North America, but I didn't assume he'd just be like, yeah, I'll casually pick up the support. And like, I am hypercritical of supports, and he had multiple moments where I was like, you know, that wasn't bad. And usually in the world of me judging a sport saying that's not bad, it means it's really freaking good.
That's the best it gets.
Sorry, boys. You know, that's,
tough love
you
in a support.
You have a scale of absolute just terabad and then just not. I mean, could have, you know, there was a little room for improvement. That's about as good as it gets in the world of Dread.
Opportunity for greatness. Genji ban. Ario ban.
So what does that mean? We walk with the test at our first pick. 4 Even in Death doesn't scream anything, doesn't lean to anything other than Homicidal has a better chance of picking Illidan and being a problem. And honestly, when Even in Death looks strongest, it's usually often with Homicidal on the Illidan, with the Tassadar behind it.
I agree. And Tassadar does kind of set up for them maybe to still work in a way of a hyper carry with a Vala, if they want to do a Vala Illidan. What do Gale Force want on Tomb of the Spider Queen? Looking at drafts that they have had in the past. Stitches fairly early. Dahaka or Arthas from Michael Udall. Maybe Lieutenant Morales later on. We saw Morales from Bakery earlier.
Did we really?
Yeah.
He was willing to bust it out on Tomb? You know the map.
It was Sky.
It was Sky?
I think, yeah, because it was the game where Fnatic made the comeback. I think that was Sky.
Morales, man, on Sky Temple. She's not.
Don't quote me on the map because I remember that was the game that they had 11% core and then lost.
Feels bad, man, if you're a Dignitas fan, but Fnatic just keeping up the impressive.
Battlefield. I'm done.
Garrosh and Rhaegar are picked up for Gale Force Esports.
Ooh.
Rhaegar to be able to make up maybe for a little of the lack of wave clear. Garrosh up there being a threat. Those two together, I secretly kind of like, just mainly because, much like with Stitches, one of your problems is like your position, because you're relying on your position and your opponents to be effective as a hero. By getting Rhaegar to be with that you can stand essentially in the middle of the minion wave, and you're getting max value out of your wave clear from Rhaegar, but then you're also increasing the probability of you having a like life-threatening drag flip combo. But you do lose out on the Uther there. So, I mean, there's trade-offs at least. I'd still probably take the Uther over all else because you can make up for the wave clear on other avenues, and let's be honest, it's an Uther. But, you know, you got to think about all the stuff here in the draft of Heroes of the Storm.
All the stuff.
All the good stuff.
I want all the orcs. Chromie Malthael. More Chromie.
More Malthael.
Yeah.
Put up a pretty solid argument in the last game. It's going to de-incentivize a possible transition into Ancestral Healing if Gale Force wanted to move in that area with that healing debuff that it gets so early on. Uther ban makes a lot of sense from Gale Force considering they have the Rhaegar, Ariel off the table. You want to remove all the burst healers that we have currently. It seems like North America's accepted. Those are the top 3 supports, and they aren't the only region that feels that way.
Also, Divine Shield with Malthael is ideal. Being able to have those 3 seconds of invulnerability while you go in with Tormented Souls gives the overlap with the armor that you get from Tormented Souls, obviously, but importantly, it allows you to kind of like Divine Shield with Maelstrom, right? It lets you go in and start getting your own shielding that you get off of that, but in this case, It's Divine Shield with
Sorry,
Tormented Souls.
I was just making that noise at that was an old school reference. Like, holy cow, with
Yeah.
Maelstrom, like,
Yeah.
it's just, man, I mean, you're not wrong. It's just to hear, you know, it's like Maelstrom. It's been a while since I've seen me a Kerrigan, so I was just like, wow,
you miss Kerrigan a little bit.
Kerrigan Uther, I mean, it is satisfying to be the Uther in that situation where you're like, okay, they hit a combo, okay, they almost have lethal, Maelstrom drops, you're like, and they're causing havoc. Nobody can deal with them. It is satisfying, but at the end of the day, you know, I think I'm okay with less Kerrigan in competitive heroes.
I'm not.
Is that because it's a StarCraft thing, or because you actually like her, like, in-game
Both.
hero
I like
skit?
both.
I only like Leapfrog and Infernal Shrines. Like, that's the only time I really enjoy watching her, just being like, yeah, and healing up to full HP.
Mm-hmm. I think the anticipation of a combo is really fun. Like, do you remember Equinox at the first Western Clash?
Where he'd like sit there and auto attack, and like, when does he throw out the combo and he's juking back and forth?
Yeah, and you just had the world's biggest combo.
Oh, that is true. He hit a 4-man, like, right out of a shrub. You are right. Sometimes it is hype, but talking about hype. Thrall kill Thoth.
He's not an orc, though. But we get to see the kill Thoth Garrosh.
We do get to see the two together. I feel like fans been playing a lot of Thrall recently on stream, too. I don't watch it 24/7, but I note it once in a while. Like, I've seen quite a few clips of him, you know, busting out the Thrall here and there.
Does that mean we're going to have another warrior and it'll be triple melee? Gale Force aren't foreign to that. They used to play that. That was their main strategy on Infernal Shrines, but they changed out of that at the Western Clash.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't put it past them. Thrall into the Malthael matchup is really complimentary for Thrall compared to some of the others. Just, it's more of like it's not a bad matchup where Malthael typically can be very, very dominant. It's just by not having a high health pool, having self-sustain, and more importantly, AoE poke. You aren't going to really bully him away, but you aren't going to get bodied the way you can with some of the other matchups. Then a Leo gets picked up. I'm assuming this is going to be Royal Focus play coming out from Even in Death. A lot of wave clear, a lot of control, and then still the Stukov being used. I'm guessing that's going to be follow-up to our Entomb.
Fish in the barrel strategy. You've got Entomb, and then the Silence, Chromie Bombs.
Chromie Bombs everywhere. So then if this is either a main warrior or a bruiser, but with the Thrall, I don't think so. It's got to be a backliner. I want it to be a backliner. Malthael, Leo, Tassadar, everybody has self-sustain except for the Chromie, who has heavy defensive sitting at the 11 mark.
What about Greymane?
Greymane would be pretty solid. I feel like I'm missing something here, though. Not Tyrande. I'm glad it's a backliner. I actually really appreciate that it's a false set into the Malthael, too.
Greymane was banned, so it couldn't have been Greymane.
That's a good call.
It's on us. Falstad. Falstad for a reset from the Entomb, Malthael, Stukov, terrifying comp.
Have you ever been gusted into a taunt?
I don't know. Probably. Have you? I feel like this is a...
I haven't, but I know, like, that some of the members on Gale Force Esports roster really enjoy a lot of wombos with Gust. Like, they probably are some of the most well-versed in, like, look at this wombo combo that you can do with Gust. And suddenly I'm looking at the taunt, and I'm just like, I want to put it past them to be like, we've got that figured out too, boys.
Is it Earthquake or Sunder?
I do expect Earthquake. I don't like it, but I assume it's going to be the case with a Kel'Thas for the peel and a Falstad on top of it. I don't think it's going to be. I always am a fan of Sundering, especially into a Stukov. Pretty much he's going to throw down the Lurking Arm as long as you aren't silenced. You throw down the Sundering. It's going to be dead. Chromie has to pop defensives. Everything's going to be panicked. He's a cooldown-based support, so that means if his cooldowns are available, huge window to be able to accent that. Just need initiation. Sunder does it pretty well.
Yeah, I like the Sunder too, just because that plus Gust offers a couple of different ways of trying to deal with Malthael. Earthquake,
that's a good point.
Yes, he's slowed down, but as long as he has Reaper's Mark on a lot of targets, he can rotate around the Earthquake and try to get around and out of that. But Sunder is a hard stop to that, and so is Gust.
I think the biggest thing is, like, ultimately how Gale Force wants to be able to play out the team fight specifically, but it's also we oftentimes find ourselves asking, like, how many resources do you commit to specific aspects of your opponent's team fight? Because, like, when I viewed the fall set, and, like, when I was talking about I really liked to see that into Malthael, is because in all cases, I enjoy Malthael or Falstad's interaction with the Malthael, how it comes out on top. Even if you go inevitable end, you're isolated, you should be dead. If you don't go inevitable end, you wasted your heroic, I traded up on top of you more than, you know, almost any other hero in the game can consistently do. So the direction that they go with that, I really appreciate. And I love the interaction with the two. It's just Earthquake itself, suddenly if you go in, you get the initiation, the inevitable end. It's just you need two tools to be able to deal with that. You get the Sundering immediately after and then try and force it all in on top of them. I feel like I'm like, just take the Gust. That's enough. You don't need anything else beyond that, and that's why I like the move in the Sunder.
Although Sunder, yeah, wait, you're saying you like Sunder?
I like the move into Sunder, but Earthquake I expect to be probable because not only that, but the synergy with the Falstad. Yeah. Is what I'm trying to say. Is Falstad wins the interaction with Malthael in both cases.
Right.
Inevitable end or not. So then you go, well, do I need to deal with the Malthael? Falstad's a big enough tool on its own. Do you need two? Because other than that, you have heavy synergy. If Malthael doesn't have his ult, a Gust into Earthquake, they just die. Everybody on that roster is flat dead. Stukov, terrible at dealing with that circumstance. I mean, Leo's going to Wraith Walk on away, probably still dead in the end. Inevitable, or the Malthael should be dead. Chromie's going to be timed out and dead in a couple seconds later. And so that's why I really enjoy that, because if you don't get the Sundering initiation the way you want and it doesn't work out proper, it's just how many tools do you need to deal with Malthael? That is the question.
It may be more of a factor of having two different tools at two different times.
Yeah.
So that way the cooldowns don't overlap in a way that they still always have something to be able to deal with that. We just had to remake the game really fast, so we'll be back into ready for game number 3 ASAP between Even to Death and Gale Force Esports. Even to Death really needs a victory in this game if they want to stay in this series versus Gale Force Esports. Gale Force just kind of doing what they do. They are flexing a little bit, though. They are bringing back in some different picks with Kael'thas and Throw, so we'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit weird with it, but I feel like within the realm of like not being like this is them just having fun. It's more of like this could be a thing. Why the perfect time to try it, right? It's pretty much a free scrim at this point in time, and with the confidence they've shown in games 1 and 2, I really appreciate the flexing they're displaying here in game 3.
Well, we're ready for game 3 between Even and Death and Gale Force Esports as we head into Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Mike Udall here is going to be repping it onto the Thrall, and so that means we have King Caffeine on Garage, and then Fan will be the KT. I always get torn a little bit here with the members of Gale Force, and oftentimes forget that Mike is now our melee. You know what I mean? I always think Fan melee, 100%. How does my brain do that?
As long as we've known Fan, he
He's
had been a melee
guy.
hero, but he's also played range for a long time,
I know.
too.
I just can't get past it. I think it's because he played that hybrid between the two for so long where it was like almost Psalm-esque, and then it got to the point where I was just always so impressed with his melees. I'm like, get him on melee. Get him on melee. But we're going to have Mike being the Thrall here.
Everyone dropping the sprays in the mid as we get set up.
No wild talent selections for anybody.
No, I wanted to talk about the Garrosh build just a little bit, but I knew that this was going to happen, so I was going to wait on that.
Battery. No way he survives this. Barrel on out. K1 Pro, he's going to lock in first blood. Draw on back. Homicidal, he keeps himself up for a minute there. Damage coming out. Good dodge coming out from K1 Pro. At the end of the day, Gale Force just find themselves a slight edge, which seems to be really how this entire series has gone until the game just is over.
Everyone rotating out in the lanes. We've got a different build for Garrosh, King Caffeine's Garrosh,
Great job.
which is going to drop. Even with the throw, immediate follow-up with Hal being there and the damage. A lot of the members of Even in Death present to make sure that that kill became a reality, even pushing out the minions to that those towers. But in the bottom lane, Cameron Pro and Michael Udall are doing the same against Homicidal. And this is the Warbreaker build, so not the same that we've seen from Justing. We heard Justing's take on it, but he also said that Warbreaker, he can see the benefit of building into Groundbreaker, reducing the cooldown, eventually getting a little more damage off of that. Has a good pairing for defensive measures at level 13, and you can even reduce attack speed, which might be the idea at level 7 versus Malthael.
Good damage there. Fan falls low, but he makes it out. I was wondering if Frozen would find himself in a proper position to be able to get that damage output, but in the end, it seems like that is not the case. I want to talk about to royal focus or to not to royal focus, mainly with the Garrosh on the other side, because he makes that interaction and the decision-making behind that a lot more wild because of that right there. Do you go with the hardened bones to ensure your survivability, or do you transition into, what is it?
Oh, it's none of them. I almost thought it'd be Willing Vessel.
He's accepting his fate.
He's getting Fealty unto death, getting the regen for health and mana when minions die.
He wants to die. Okay, I don't know how to explain this. There is certain situations where compositions can run a Leoric who's comfortable sacrificing himself and be able to get away with it. But the only element that those compositions generally, all of them actually have, is they're extremely good at wave clear.
Yes.
Extremely good at wave clear. They are not that kind of roster right now. So to pick up Fealty into death, it by no means sets them out of this game, but it is a bit concerning on the thought process and approach to this matchup in these comps specifically for Even in Death. By not going into Hardened Bones or into the Royal Focus, you're essentially going for that I'm sacrificing the Leo late game and I'm winning through wave clear that they just don't have.
Are there any picks that you can see immediately talent-wise that would help them get to that point? Thinking like,
I don't think there's any talent choices that they could use. Maybe a couple of heroic adjustments, like you may be able to make the argument that the Force Wall to slow the aggression of the members of Gale Force could be able to stall out the game a little bit more. Every fight you lose, you only lose maybe 2 members instead of 4 because you Force Wall stall out the game for the later stages. I mean, nothing that stands out immediately to me.
We've got Dragon's Eye, and Frozen X has been doing a great job with the damage, although he will fall, dropping a lot of gems that King Caffeine... Actually, that was Rhaegar who fell. I don't know what I saw.
It's a 1-for-1 trade.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
They're just,
my brain.
Perfect death timers, actually. I feel like those are perfectly synchronized. End up getting the 1-for-1, but 45 gems available for Even in Death. The 7 choice still not picked up 4 battery on that Leo. Let's go. We're going to see still focusing into what I believe is Lingering Apparition there. So the duration, but still no Hardened Bones. All right. I'm ready to see how they play this out. I'm just skeptical. Fan, though, receives a lot of pressure. He should be going down here. Battery, 1 more auto.
Still got
wow.
Drain. Oh, no way, sir. Frozen X finds the target. The bullseye was painted, and he delivered, taking out Fan at the start of this. Fan is one of the big wave clear heroes for Gale Force Esports, so a few more seconds until he is here to help with the defense of the Web Weavers for Even in Death. Even in Death are going to use that time as best they can, pushing on all fronts, in all lanes against Gale Force Esports. They know they've got somewhat of an opening.
Bottom Web Weaver is going to make a lot happen. K1 Pro and Mikey Doll aren't necessarily the greatest defense against that. Battery found himself in a tough spot, but he is a Leo. Lingering Apparition is going to be able to aid in the retreat as long as, you know, the whole members of Gale Force Esports aren't there to get that kill. That's what we were talking about, the trade-off versus if you go into the Hardened Bones. And in the end, it was the Fealty to death. Even in Death, though, have a full level lead. They're going to have their heroic choices far before Gale Force Esports. The problem is that they need to use that advantage to secure the remaining gems for the secondary turn and then force that before Gale Force gets it. And if they don't go that direction, they have to get kills. They have to remove some of the gems from the hands of GFE.
They must have lost some or not been able to pick up some because they were a fair amount behind. Yeah, when Chromie died. Gale Force, though, did lose some too, that Rhaegar. And because they don't have heroic abilities, they are not turning in Even in Death. Great job on keeping track of both the turning points. They have Tassadar to give vision from that. They have Chromie to give vision from that, too. A lot of vision around those points. No forts went down from that, but if Even in Death can combo, they should be able to get at least 1 fort, maybe more.
I would like to see Even in Death get something done with this 10 advantage. I mean, we talk about how big of a spike it is. It's been a full level of it. Granted, it's shifted a little bit different in terms of timing than we normally had. But at the, you know, you can play with that expectation, I feel like, for Even in Death. They were unable to do so, unable to gain too much But they did close in on those web weavers, so that is, you know, the silver lining here at the end of the day. Getting 3 gems, they now just have enough for that. But Gale Force, they have enough of their own. Fan hitting Gravity Lapse. Phoenix going to be dropped. Flailing Swipe has to be used to save Frozen X.
Yeah, that was a lot of combo damage really fast, but Even in Death do what they need to and get a second Web Weaver phase. They will maintain their lead. Now they just need to push the lanes. They've had Leoric continually up in the top, pushing that up so the Web Weaver can get right on top of the fort. They had to back off initially from mid, and that let Gale Force do push back that mid wave just a little bit, but this top is definitely where Even in Death want to hope that they can get the Web Weaver up and then get a secondary location as a way of guaranteeing that they can get a fort down.
Fan not able to connect with that Gravity Lapse, but Homicidal in the end, no way he's going to be able to push out too effectively with that Web Weaver. On the top half, the 4 members of Even in Death looking to abuse their advantages here. I expect a transition towards middle fort, and it looks like they are going to do so. Double fort for them is a really good Web Weaver phase. The map is suddenly cleared pretty effectively, but we find ourselves in a situation where with how slow that Web Weaver phase was in the secondary, unless they triple fort, I feel like they need a kill. They need to get a reset.
Look at Mike. Mike stepping through. He did take Earthquake, so it'll be an Earthquake flank he was hoping for.
Everybody was looking for it, even K1 Pro there with that flight in.
Double fort. Even in Death has done the thing, what they needed to do with 2 turn-in phases, only 1 fort remaining, and it is fairly low in health. Anytime Even in Death gets maybe a couple of kills, they can go down and finish that fort off. Now they have to figure out what they want to do about Gale Force and the 89 gems they're currently holding toward the first Web Weaver phase.
I feel like the answer is going to be hopefully try and force, even if it's not without a Talontier advantage. Because so many gems exist on the side of Gale Force Esports, every attempt at a turn-in or anything is very, very risky. They have a lot more to lose than that of Even in Death. And if the 13 Talontier hits, they're just going to play chicken around these Web Weavers until they can sneak one in for themselves.
Have you played Stukov with Growing Infestation, the bigger lurking arm on Tomb around the turn-in point?
Yeah.
It's very annoying.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good self-zone onto one. I mean, Stukov at any channeled objective is pretty much a problem, but the ones that are stationary, he stands out a bit more, like that of BOE, Tomb, Curse. Even in Death has the 13 Talontier. This is the advantage that they've been waiting for, but it doesn't seem like they feel confident to try and force anything with the upper hand, which means they will forfeit a Web Weaver phase. When they do that, they'll forfeit experience advantage, which means it'll be even Talontiers. This is your best fight you're going to get in this game, Even in Death. You have to take it.
They're not close enough to getting their 3rd turn-in phase in a way that they can get off of that. So the fight has to be, the thing that allows them to keep their lead. It's one thing to get the early lead. It's a completely different thing to be able to further it, but they're down 2 games against this heavy engaged style of composition from Gale Force, and then one that will allow them to reset the comp even if it didn't go well. I mean, heck, Fan nearly took out Frozen X completely just with 1 combo of abilities earlier on.
Gale Force is going to pick up their 13. They have a Night Camp to pressure out the mid lane. That's going to give them vision control over both of the objectives now in this mid lane. Once Fan gets rid of it, nice Flame Strike thrown down, sealing the deal. And so now with lack of vision, that's where you can assume as long as Oracle is going to be used, that Gale Force splits the pressure and forces themselves a turn-in situation here. Good zoning coming out from Cap. Mike's going to start this up. That's enough gems for the turn-in. Beautiful dodge there on the Chromie spell. Battery moves up. Gravity Lapse used the zone.
Chromie spell didn't hit. Battery has to go all the way in for this. The silence has been used. Now that's Wraith Walk down. So a lot of damage taken by Battery.
Tassadar did a good job getting 1 more delay, but I think that was in fact the last delay. It was. Web Weavers are here for Gale Force Esports. They have enough gems for a secondary turn-in immediately after. Even in Death cannot make a mistake here. By playing so passive with the 13 window that they had, they need to make it worth it here over the next few minutes, and it's going to matter as long as those blue little health bars exist in the bottom right part of your screen.
So I've yet to see a full 5v5 with all heroic abilities ready between these 2 teams. Very passive play from both, but in that instance benefiting Gale Force Esports because they finally got their first turn in.
Good.
There's Entomb, lots of damage for Frozen X. Earthquake used to give Michael Udall some of that Frost, but Resilience heal. Akaphase comes in with the Ancestral Healing. Frozen X has already used a timeout. King Caffeine makes sure to get the kill. Now throwing Lutano to the Wolves.
Yeah, and that was a really good job there. Fan not in range to be able to throw out a secondary Gravity Lapse instead. Going to turn that on top to Battery. Feral Spirit is a brilliant follow-up coming out from Mike. But at the end of the day, that was just very clutch rotations coming out from Gale Force Esports to be able to save that. Because Even in Death did exactly what they needed to. They tried to be able to get that force and some angle with the split pressure GFE put out in that Webweaver phase. It just was brilliance coming out from their end to save things and keep themselves on even footing. Lutana does not have a dimensional shift, I don't believe. Doesn't even matter. That was perfect chain CC. Leo dies the Thrall on top. I mean, how do you stop Gale Force? They're winning everywhere.
On all fronts, excellent combo of those crowd control abilities to make sure that Tassadar kill was there. And then with Leoric dying up in the top, that tends to be the issue, the concern with the team when they get Leoric as the primary warrior is the ability to be able to take him out. Even though he has gotten things like Fealty unto Death, he has a lot more built into his Drain Hope, trying to make sure that he can build or heal up as much as he can with a cooldown reduction now at 16. It still is a problem where he can get bursted down really fast. Oh, cool.
What's up?
Thunderstorm. They buffed this talent. It's cool because as long as you are casting on new heroes, somebody that you didn't cast out on the last person, it makes it slow more and more and more until you get a 40% slow, and then once you have the 40% slow, then your Chain Lightning initial damage is increased. You can really burst down with that.
40% slow at the range is really underestimated too.
Yeah.
That's a very high percentile slow. To be that easy to be able to apply AoE. Battery got flipped. Used his Wraith Walk on out. Drops the Entomb. The silence is going to be there. No, it takes a while. Flailing Swipe instead is the decision making. Cappy keeps himself alive with those 23 gems, even getting that last auto attack heal off. Battery is not getting any kill. The shielding coming out from Gale Force is ridiculous with that armor, and in the end it is Battery that ends up falling. Both mid and bottom web we were still alive, and this is a 4 versus 5 up here on top.
The Phoenix zoning away Frozen X from being able to get the last little bit of damage to take out King Caffeine now means the Tormented Souls has to be used to bring him down. Gust saves King Caffeine again. Battery's still slowing him down. They know that he is really low in health, but that is the problem with the armor. But Thrall didn't have that. Frozen X gets a kill as Gale Force were retreating away.
The biggest thing here is that is now 47 seconds where Gale Force is decentivized to prioritize the turn-in. Leoric ended up going down, but at the end of the day, with the talent building that he's gone into, this is what he's been waiting for, to be to this stage of the game. I mean, it's not exactly where he wants to be. Ideally, he wants to be all 3 forts down, maybe a keep, and then at the 20 mark, but it's close enough to where suddenly Battery and the build that he's gone for is going to pay off. It's just, can they really stop this next turn-in phase with the 20 closing in? I hate to break it to you, Gilly, but every time I've asked that question over the past 2 games for Even in Death, the answer has just been no.
They're at least going to get their own web weavers, but top and bottom aren't going to amount to much, especially top with the catapults pushing in that lane and all the way up nearly to the core where the keep was before.
But by getting this web weaver phase for Even in Death, their timer, the question I just postured to you is now essentially even doubly so important. They just used a resource before that window exists on their opponent's end. So if they fail to capitalize within that time period, they essentially waste the gems and waste the advantage. More importantly, they waste a win condition or a way to recover this game.
Top is forfeit, but they're pushing along with bottom and mid.
Which means that ideally you prep mid, you make a rotational cut through because that territory through where those knights are is a brilliant transition between the two. But you have to prep that all the way up to the keep front wall, and it has to be timed evenly with your bottom, which we see the mid pressure too far outward. Suddenly the bottom is going to be an easy clear afterwards. If you go this route, it has to be a perfect double threat between the 2 lanes.
Yeah, Fury of the Sunwell just makes it so easy for Fan to clear out this web weaver really fast. He drops a second. There's not even the burned flesh to scare away members of Even in Death being in the Flame Strike, but just the double Flame Strike does so much to the web weaver, especially when she's sitting there throwing out her spells after moving forward. So 60 gems were used by Even and Death. They still have 37, so they will be to 65 somewhat soon. But the issue is no keeps down. No keeps really even touched. And Gale Force now has plenty of time to run rampant on this map with their 20 and having 85 gems.
The only thing that Even in Death has left is 20 and that top boss. They have to win a fight over it. It's 45 seconds away before that spawns. Within 45 seconds, you can assume there will be a minimum of 1 minion wave. In theory, it should be one, or like a hole and a half. 9 gems exist in each wave, so it is mathematically impossible for Even in Death to really pick themselves up a Web Weaver phase before that boss would even be a thing, even if they stalled out this 20. Luckily, though, if the game doesn't end here, it'll be a 20 versus 20, and it will be a situation where Even in Death has the upper hand. Gems for a turn-in and a threat around boss, hopefully.
Past and Future Me allowing Frozen X maybe the chance to snipe a backliner again, like he did earlier with Fan. Battery steps forward to clear this out. 20 soon. Homicidal thrown to the rest of Gale Force Esports, but an Entomb to let him run right back out. The red carpet for Homicidal to come home. But
it used Inevitable End in that process, so that means the next gust from Falstad, if it's used to zone him away, it won't split him. In fact, it will just make sure that gets no use out of that Tormented Souls. He's yet to be able to pick up those 20s, though. Calf zoned away. Go ahead and drop a flip. Lurking Arm is a deterrent, but maybe not enough as Falstad still pushing away up onto the bottom half.
Zukov now has controlled Chaos, so that makes it a little more forgiving when he wants to use the single swipe like that, especially with the cooldown reduction.
Keep in mind, Top Web Weaver has already started onto the core, ridding through some of the shielding. Mike Dahl is going to go ahead and transfer up on that direction. This is a very split from Gale Force. They were going for a triple keep play here into a boss lethal, but it's not nearly as crisp as they were hoping for. This is a window for Even in Death to force, but they whiff when it comes to that Entomb attempt.
That lets King Caffeine walk right on out away from the team.
Mike Dahl even very low here. If they can get another maybe Wraith Walk into a Skeletal Swing Slow, they might be able to change the tides of this. Good zone there from Fan, splitting off Chromie. And now K1 Pro is going to secure the bottom keep, may even make his way through mid as Chromie's the only one back to deal with him, and that's not a 1v1 Falstad's afraid of. It's a bit of a skill matchup there, especially considering the timeout. Chromie now looking to join the full 5 versus 5 here. It's going to be triple keep. It's all about boss now.
Even in Death poking, slowing people down, keeping them from the dismount while they still try to aggress. They have Entomb back up now, and they had Thrall in a fairly good position. Granted, he does have Wind Rush and Earthquake as a way of doing a counter engage for the team, so it may not be the ideal target for Even in Death to try to catch with the Entomb. Instead, hoping that they can get K1 Pro here.
I respect the attempt to be able to get the interrupt on that epic mount there. It's just one of those inconvenient, how fast that goes off. Akface, go ahead and dump his 2 gems right on off. Caffeine with 25.
They can't let this Web Weaver phase happen for Gale Force.
I would actually argue the odds of Gale Force losing this game if they get the Web Weaver phase is higher if they don't than if they don't. And I have a little bit of reasoning behind that, and I'll break that down in a second. First, it's got to be Fan out of position. K1 Pro's not with them, keep in mind. Falstad's still on the Giant Camp.
King Caffeine saves Fan, who's under fire from Battery. He's still fairly low, so we're going to back up. The team is massively separated, all the members of Gale Force Esports. We're going to see Lutano dimensional shift on top of Michael Udall, which means he goes straight into Archon after that, using his auto attacks to slow down all of the members. This is it. Even in Death's chance to try to get some kills from Gale Force Esports.
Gale Force is going to win this game as long as this fight keeps existing. They have Giants up bottom, triple catapults. They're Falstad can fly. He decides to fly to this fight instead, though. Cap is stuck in the corner. Even in Death doing work. They get the first kill. Homicidal keeping himself alive as well. Even Akaface ends up going down. So supportless is going to be both teams down Garage, but the story is the core.
Yeah, it is. Nothing has started going down yet. Timeout keeps Flame Strike from killing Chromie, and Malthael makes it back in the nick of time. Frozen X is still not out of this, but dodges the root of Michael Udall. Battery takes down Michael Udall, is chasing down Fan, but K1 Pro is back. Battery, Wraith walks out. 21 gems he's holding on to. Malthael gets back in time to save the core.
He does. That was brilliant. I didn't think there was any way K1 Pro let that through. But the fact that we found a situation where Homicidal could get enough of a fog advantage to be able to get that back is honestly the only reason this game isn't over. That was brilliant.
And a lot of the gems for Gale Force Esports were dropped, which means there's not an immediate Web Weaver phase while it's the 3v3 dead in a Kael'thas Falstad versus Malthael Leoric show.
Very well done. That, and, you know, that was a bit of proving me wrong in my conspiracy theory I built about whether or not, you know, picking up the Web Weaver phase is an advantage or a disadvantage there. I was going to say that. I thought if the Gale Force Esports gets a turn in, the predictability of where they're going to move and the ability to get a flank with Leo and force a fight is a lot higher than that if they didn't do so and they just played it out, wait to let the macro pressure end the game there. But Even in Death got that fight. They not only got it, they almost won it. And that was exactly what they needed for this game to be at least not over quite yet. We have to be considering the boss. Gale Force is postured around. They know what's up. But Chromie and Leo, and the build that Leo has, they can sacrifice quite a lot. Even Tassadar, they have a lot of vision, so this shouldn't go uncontested.
The Web Weaver phase may have been able to give positioning or show where Gale Force was going to go, but Even in Death hasn't so far really been willing to be overly aggressive in the fights they need to take. But knowing that the boss is up, and this is a place for Gale Force to try to end the game, they have to go in for this fight, and they do so. They've got Tormented Souls. The Earthquake dropped down behind that, but Homicidal is going straight after King Caffeine, the Earth Shield, and the heal back up.
Storm Shield, everything was used to keep King Caffeine alive, and he will survive. The rest of the members of Gale Force Esports seem like they're fine, but K1 Pro made his way onto the core. Frozen X is going to be the first to make it on back. Thrall didn't get the interrupt there because he wasn't within vision. The slow used by Howden Win. There's going to be the lurking arm silence. Thrall is panicked here. No Earthquake and in a bad spot. But Gale Force look like they're here. K1 Pro coming in. He's going to gust them away. And this is now Gale Force turning things around. Look at Cap.
I cannot believe that Cap is still alive. He has lasted for so freaking long as the rest of the team tried to chase him down and kill him. Entomb does go down on him, but Stukov is now in trouble as he's being chased down by Michael Udall. Tassadar is dead. Battery eliminated. Stukov finally goes down. Only Chromie remains, went back to try to stop the Falstad, and K1 Pro just epic mount his way right into the fight, getting the 4 kills necessary for Gale Force to close out this very long Tomb of the Spider Queen game.
How did he survive? Calf was at 10% HP for like 36 minutes.
If armor increases the value of heal, think what it does to an Ancestral Heal. And that was it, the very last second Ancestral Heal you possibly could. Drop down the shielding, brought him back up, and you're fairly guaranteed to get the Ancestral Heal because of all the armor and the amount of damage it takes to kill him. It's a scary combination. It's understandable why we saw that get picked in that rotation.
That was just absurd. Everything about the later ends of that game. Even in Death was able to hold on for Tomb, you know, a bit longer than some of the other maps here in the series. But to be honest, at the end of the day, it was about as close as the rest. It was just because the map and considering how they were playing it, they did the same thing. Fell a little bit behind. When do we decide to fight? Usually just slow, 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 eventually commit. But it's like, is this too late? Are we gaining enough out of this? In all 3 games, the answer was not quite.
The early game for that game for Even in Death was really good. They had the double turn-in. The second turn-in was excellently timed so that they could get 2 keeps. They had heroic abilities ahead, but that one time around level 13 when they did play pretty passively, and that is an understandable place to be passive because it's just the 13 talent tier. There's a lot of heroics, a lot of scary heroics for Gale Force Esports, and it's Gale Force Esports, and you're down 2 games. A lot of understanding circumstances there, but I think when we see Even in Death go back and look at that game, that's probably one spot where they're going to say, okay, we should have been a little bit more on the board here.
Yeah, just, you know, at least some kind of map presence, you know, because it is weird, but like even just conveying, like showing interest in a specific objective sometimes mentally is enough to get to a team. If they're second guessing themselves, they're like, they think they can do this, you know, like they're posturing around this. And so, yeah, that I agree. Like any kind of a little bit more offensive and a little bit more scary, but and just not moving away the way that they did is something that they can probably improve on. And if they do so, maybe that game's different. It really is those small, just it's usually about 5 times at most in a game, and all 5 points. You're just like, if this went in your way, the odds you win in the game about 10-20% spike higher.
Especially with all the vision they had between Chromie and Tassadar and lots of different ways of safely denying turn-ins. We saw that it could be very frustrating for Gale Force Esports to get turn-ins once they started getting them. And it was all about that first one for Gale Force, because after that, with all the wave clear they had, that started pushing waves completely in their control, and then things got a lot easier for them. So it's all about that mid-game of Tomb and who is able to get those first couple of turn-ins and how much they get done with them, how much they can keep a hold of the game. Because there are possibilities for a team never really to get a turn-in, or to get a turn-in in a way that is just to buy yourself some time. And that's always how Tomb tends to go.
I'm honestly torn on considering whether or not is Cursed Hollow or Tomb of the Spider Queen the harder map to learn how to win. Like, because bosses at the end of the day don't have to do things right? And both of them sometimes can be the variable it comes down to, but when it comes to like a wasted curse, definitely worse if you waste a curse than if you waste a Web Weaver phase. But it is like I'm always amazed at how common those maps are and the way that they have to be played if you're going to be successful. And the mid game seems more impactful for Tomb than on Curse, but the late game and early game of Curse are infinitely more impactful than that of Tomb. It's so, I don't know, just one of those kind of overarching styles that we see out of all of HGC, and how they get played out was really fun.
Yeah, what always amazes me about Tomb of the Spider Queen games is if you lose somebody early on with some gems, it can come back to bite you so hard in the late game, because you're likely to get into those 60-ish, you're definitely going to get like at least a 50, maybe the 55, but 60, 65, it hurts. And you can immediately see where I died with 20-some gems, and now we can't combo a second turn-in because we are exactly 20-some gems short. We've had plenty of those games happen here in HGC, and that can be really frustrating for not only you, but you as a team, knowing that had things gone differently, had you not gotten picked in that situation, you would have been able to snowball a lot harder, and otherwise have to deal with opponents taking momentum away from you in the game.
Yeah, Tomb is, I don't know, it is probably one of the weirdest maps in the game for how straightforward it is, just across the board, because it's got some like Blackheart's bait to it, and the fact that you can lose the objective because you're holding it. It's got the double turn-in section, so you're like, well, you know, you can try and be able to get that there, but then suddenly the way the laning phase is set up between mid and bottom being so close, and then it's advantageous for both teams to transition through it, as long as you have that, you're playing on your opponent's side of the map like we saw even in Death Through. It is just, I don't know. It is kind of crazy on how that kind of goes out. No maps actually share those same characteristics, so.
Well, let's check in with Gale Force Esports now. We've got K1 Pro on the line. Hey, K1, congratulations. Awesome to have you here. How are you guys feeling now after your victory and after coming back from the Western Clash?
Pretty good. The last game didn't go as we wanted, I guess, but trio is nice. But it was a lot closer than expected because they had an answer to the Garrosh with like the Leo pick.
Yeah, talk us through what the planning was for that, and what the concern was with the Leoric and the Chromie.
I mean, Leoric versus Garrosh just seems like a really good matchup. Like, he just drains him and gets a lot of value. Chromie just plays out of range. She's also really good on that map. I think we're undervaluing Chromie right now. A lot of teams are playing it, and it looks really strong, but I'm sure we'll practice it more soon.
Maybe we'll get a K1 Pro Chromie. We'll have to see. Dren?
Maybe.
I saved Uther for you.
I was just going to say, we got you on the Uther today, so my question is about the Uther, and you, instead of representing the Ario, having you on the Uther, what was the thought process behind that one?
Oreo sucks, man. that hero is so boring. And Aka's like, which hero do you want? I don't want Oreo ever. She's like the most boring hero in the game. I'll play anything else.
So it was purely based off of boredom.
I mean, I like to have fun.
I mean, I don't blame you. I totally understand. I've been the same guy in the same draft where I'm just like, I really don't want to play that. Do I absolutely have to? I just didn't think that would be your justification. He had some amazing Divine Shields, so for being bored, you did pretty darn well.
Having fun's a priority, man.
I was really hoping.
That's why you game.
Yeah, I was hoping that we would get to see some flank Divine Storms from you, but my favorite part was when you were B-stepping the Giants as you took them out.
Oh, yeah, I mean, no one helped me, so I'm like, all right, whatever.
Having fun is priority, on display. B-stepping the Giants you're taking on your own.
Yeah, I'm bodying 3 Giants, 1 of me, easy.
Nailed it. All right, final question. You guys play Tempo Storm next week. Any thoughts as to that matchup? How confident are you guys feeling for that?
I think we're feeling pretty confident. I don't think Tempo has figured out the strongest draft for this patch right now. So We're looking to capitalize on that. I think we'll do well.
Is the latest balance patch that'll come in next week a concern for you guys, or are you feeling confident about that as well?
I don't know. That's what the Oreo change, right?
Yeah.
Is that next week? I guess we'll see. I mean, we haven't played on the patch, so we'll just see. We have to actually play that patch.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Congratulations again. Any shout-outs before you go?
Thank you. Yeah, shout outs to Gale Force Esports. Shout outs to my team, NVIDIA, Twitch, Meta Threads, Gunners, and our analyst, Courtney. She's really good at her job.
Excellent.
And that's it.
12 out of 10 on the shout-outs, my friend. Excellent job. Thank you, and
Thanks.
have a good week.
All right, you too.
2 3-0s today. We had the 10-game dream for Europe, and then the double 3-0 dream for North America.